Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand TV. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal brand and business development company. I want to take you on a journey through another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand TV series, you will differentiate yourself from the competition and build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build confidence, and reflect who you are. Building your 5-star personal brand is a great way to improve your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or any of my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh@5starbdm.com. Now, let's begin with our next episode on the Follow the Brand TV.
Five-Star BDM, Brand Development Masters, is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for the small to mid-sized business and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share business development challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement and operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. This results in more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Visit www.5starbdm.com today to learn more.
Imagine waking up one morning to discover your business has been sold, and just like that, $2 million are gone. That's the reality Doug Brown faced, a loss that would make most people walk away. But what if that mistake could teach you the lesson of a lifetime? Research from top business schools reveals a shocking truth. 97% of companies selling don't even know who their ideal buyer is. Doug learned this the hard way. But when he and his team finally dialed in the right buyer profile for their clients, everything changed. Losses turned into $10 million gains in just 12 months. The secret? Stop selling to job titles and start connecting with real people. Their fears, their dreams, their ambitions. There's a business return on investment, and there's a personal one. If you're not speaking to both, you're missing out. Doug's mentor once said, "Know what you want, point yourself in that direction, and keep moving forward." Most will hear this and do nothing, but a few will take action. Which one are you? Watch the full story on the Follow the Brand podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Follow the Brand podcast. This is your host, Grant McGaugh. We're going to take it all the way back. People don't know this, but I used to live in New England. I lived in Nashua, New Hampshire from 1991 to 1998. Never forgot it. Beautiful location, especially right now during the fall. This is fall foliage time. It is drop dead gorgeous. If you get a chance, you got to go through there. So, talking to my buddy here, Doug Brown, he's telling me he lives in Nashua, New Hampshire, which is the exact town that I lived in. Of course, we just had, great conversation just before we jumped on. Because this is we're selling the New England experience right now. Now, he's the CEO of Sales Strategy. This guy knows what he's talking about. I'm going to let him introduce himself. We're going to have a candid conversation of what makes Doug Doug. So, Doug, you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Grant. Thanks for having me on. I'm really grateful and appreciative. And it was fun talking about, you lived literally like 5 miles from where I live. So that was awesome to know. I'm sad we didn't run into each other during the 90s because I was definitely around here. So
excellent. Now, people don't know, but I learned this about you. You've worked with giants like Tony Robbins and Procter and Gamble. And my question is about how did those experiences shape your authority in the sales world, and how can entrepreneurs build authority in industries where they're, I would say, relatively unknown?
So it's helped my authority in a great deal, right? Because it's like, you know, if we say Clint Eastwood, right? Everybody knows who Clint Eastwood is. And if we say, oh yeah, you know, I went to high school with Clint Eastwood, and people go, well, do you know him? Oh yeah, we still talk every once in a while, right? Immediately that person gets higher authority in many people's minds, assuming they respect Clint Eastwood, right? So it's that, you know, it never ceases to amaze me. And Grant, you may laugh on this because, like, you know, I have degrees in business, biology, and nuclear medicine. And then I went to Berkeley College in Boston for one semester.
Yeah. And
when people look up on my LinkedIn profile, the majority of them say two things. Oh my God, you know Tony Robbins? Or oh my goodness, you went to Berkeley College of Music? You must be the most outstanding musician ever. And it's like, right? So I want people to think about the association, because many people know who, you know, Berkeley College of Music, not everyone, but many people know who Tony Robbins is, and not everybody, right? So it's one of those things that when people can associate us to having a relationship with a known quantity, a known entity, you know, it automatically elevates our status and our positioning in people's minds. And it doesn't matter what the relationship is at that point. It's just what people's perception is. You know, our media is built on this, or, you know, I mean, worldwide media is built on this. You know, I was fortunate. I'll give you an example. I was fortunate enough. This gentleman's name is Thomas Doyley Jr. Thomas Doyley Jr. built this company called Braxton Industries. They built it to $500 million. And now they're called Deloitte. Mm-hmm. Right. And I know the gentleman, and I had lunch with him 3 weeks ago. You know, he's just a nice guy. He's in his 80s. He lives down in the Cape of Massachusetts. We met in Boston in the Italian North End section and had a cup of coffee. He, my wife, and we decided we're going to do a live event together. So, you know, but I can say, hey, I'm doing a live event with a guy who now is called Deloitte. You know, the company's called Deloitte, right? And automatically that elevates my positioning with people. And so people will talk to you that may not have talked to you before, you know, that type of thing. And so, I mean, it doesn't have to be on like the high names. It helps. But I mean, just the fact that you lived in Nashua and I lived in Nashua, right? It elevates your status in my mind because I know we have familiarity.
Right.
And that's what authority does. It gives people familiarity and creates a perception of this is probably safe, and I can move forward. So that's what I know it's done for me. And you know, I know it does for other people. This is where you can command higher fees because people do pay for celebrity, and it is kind of a celebrity thing. It would be like if I said, I don't know. Well, I mean, give you an example. Thomas Doyley Jr. said, you know, I'll probably be able to get Mr. Schultz, you know, one of the I don't know if he was a co-founder, but he was the CEO of Google.
Yes.
Right. And he said, I think I can get him to come speak. And I'm like, that guy? And he's like, yeah, he's a good friend of mine. I think he'll come and do it, you know. And I said, okay, like now we can say we have the, you know, Google CEO, right? I mean, who in business wouldn't want to listen to him about a technology, you know, conversation, right? So that's what it does. That's what celebrity does. And how do you get it? You get out into the public square, you know, and you start wherever you can and you go wherever you can. And you say yes to things that aren't against your, you know, your standing in life. And you just get out there. You'd be surprised if you have something to say. A lot of people will give you a stage if you just ask.
I believe that. You got to have beliefs in who you are.
Yes.
What you also said is that bridge, especially when you're talking to someone that you haven't spoke to before.
Right.
I had not spoke before, but yet we were able to find a bridge. Most salespeople will do that. Like, all right, I have to find a bridge of something that's similar, something that we both can relate to, that's relatable, right? So, hey, when you told me first, we got talking about myself in Nebraska. You have to ask that question: how cold does it get? I said, well, it gets pretty cold. It used to get pretty cold. I don't know if it gets as cold as before. They wouldn't give you the temperature. They would say it's cold as it's colder than man or beast. So that should tell you that you should not go outside and give you an understanding of temperature wise. But we established rapport immediately and a bridge to, okay, I think I can have a genuine conversation with someone before you can get into what I call more intimate conversation to get you to another level. You definitely define that very, very well of establishing authority as a brand of yourself, your personal brand, forward and forward. To bring something up that's common ground, that's genuine in your view and aligns with your belief. I want to switch the subject just a little bit because in your view, I want to ask you this. What separates a good sales team? And I've been on a lot of sales team as someone who has been a career business development professional for over 30 some odd years. The question is, what separates a sales team that's simply good from one that positions itself as an undeniable authority in the market?
Ooh, that's a great question. So a sales team who positions itself as an undeniable authority doesn't actually mean that they're actually better at selling than the team that's actually good, right? So, and I know this because I've worked with a lot of brand names, and I get into these brand names and I'm like, wow, you guys don't know really how to sell, let's say, to a C-level organization, C-level, right? Or, I just worked with some of the trades companies recently, and some of them who have brand authority, their sales team really isn't that good.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of like back in the day when Maytag was like the big brand name, right? And the Maytag people would walk in and say, hey, we're from Maytag. We're not the least expensive. Let me tell you why. Right. Well, that's, I don't know if that's the greatest positioning for a sales conversation, but I mean, it certainly was a good interruption, to head the objection off ahead of time. But, people in Maytag, they may not be as good as, Arnie's Appliance Company, who nobody's ever really heard of except Arnie in the local area. Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's the positioning really does come down to, it always helps the sale. I mean, if we think about this just on human nature, why do we accept a blind date? Because the trust and authority is conveyed through the person who's saying, I want to set you up with my friend. I think you two would get along really, famously. And so we go, all right, this is a safe situation. I trust this person. It is a referral, really, when it comes down into sales. So this positioning and authority always will give us an edge to have a different level of status. Mm-hmm. No matter even if, like, let's say we were doing a live event together, Grant, and we said, well, we're going to do it at the Biltmore Hotel.
Yeah.
And people will be like, oh, the Biltmore, right? They already know the brand. But, we could also say we were going to do it at, Dave's Loft, Now, Dave's Loft might be a way nicer service and way better than the Biltmore Hotel, even though the Biltmore's established a brand in that. I mean, at Dave's, they might drive your car and park it for you and carry your bags in and lay out everything and iron your clothing in the morning and, bring you, hot breakfast to your room and not charge you for it. I mean, they might be like better service even at Dave's, but Dave will not be positioned as the Biltmore unless that brand is built somehow. And so when you think of the Biltmore, you think, oh, geez, I'm going to pay a lot more money for that.
Sure.
And that's why people do. I mean, why do people fly first class? It's a status. It's an authority type thing. I only fly first class. Chet Holmes, when I was Chet's president of training, sales and training,
Yep.
Chet told me, he goes, I only fly first class. I'm like, Chet, we're flying an hour and a half.
Right.
He's like, yeah, I'm flying first class. I'm like, I'm not charging the company that we work together in, $3,000 to fly an hour and a half. I'll sit in business class for $500 or whatever. Right. And so it's like, but he used to tell everybody, I only fly first class. So when he was hired by people, they'd be like, I only get first class tickets.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just raised his authority.
Premium. Right. Right. Got to be able to perform at that level. But I said, all right, you're a premium guy. We're going to pay it. That's why I go to my sports analogy. Why one quarterback gets $1 million a year, and another quarterback's $20 million a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some status that goes with that, some past performance that goes with that. And there's a probability that they're going to do it for me. No guarantee. I'm a Steelers fan. I'm hoping I get, the Hall of Fame Aaron Rodgers, but there's no guarantee.
Now, Steve, now we're going to get it because they just played the Patriots the other day. And I'm still not happy about the way the Patriots played that game. Let's put it that way. But, but you're right. I mean, here's the thing I've learned too. No matter where somebody is in that authority status, it doesn't mean they're going to perform better than the people who are not. I mean, listen, I love Chet Holmes. I've closed deals he couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he's helped me a great deal too. So, teamwork is a wonderful thing, but it also doesn't mean that just somebody who has had, he had the best selling sales book for 7 years straight.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they don't make mistakes.
No, they're human. Exactly.
So
change. A lot of times sales, it's timing, it's situation, whatever the tactical flow, strategic flow. There's a lot of things going on. I want to talk to you about this because I think this is important, especially for a lot of people that are tuning in. There are salespeople I work with for maybe 20 plus years, and they want to hear this from a professional like yourself. Now, you face setbacks from sending out, I think you said 300 plus resumes without success, and then you pivoted into entrepreneurship. My question is, how has resilience played into your success, and how do you coach leaders to build that same type of muscle?
If you don't have resilience, that's that Chumbawamba did a song, I get knocked down but get back up again. I think it's called, right? Something, I don't know what the name of the song is, but that is entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Was it That's Life? It was another song that was done, you're riding high in April, shot down in May. Right. And, I'll give an example. I had a client up until 2 years ago. We were generating $1.4 million a year with this client. I had been with this client now for 7 years, and, they grew in part because of our efforts. I built a commission sales team for these people and managed it.
Nice.
And, our commissions overall were $1.4 million.
Nice.
Right. And so that tells you what we sold a lot. we were actually 1/3 of their revenue. And so they came to me and they said, listen, we're doing great. We want to double our sales.
Okay.
And I'm a math-based, metrics-based guy when it comes to these things. So I built out the plan and I showed it to them. They go, yep, let's do it. And I said, well, listen, this is a big commitment on my side. I've got to let a couple other clients, give them notice. I can't keep them because, I don't have it's not fair to the other clients. Right. So I said, so you sure we're in? And they said, yeah, no problem. So I let the other clients go. Okay. So this is a $2 million mistake. I want people to understand this coming up front. Okay. So I let them go. And then about 2.5 months into us growing their company to double it, they decided to hard pivot to a completely new market.
Wow.
And they asked me, what do I think? And I said, absolutely don't do this. It won't work. Well, anyways, the company, it didn't work. And they tried it and they kept staying with it. And I kept saying, please get out of this. Please get out of this. Please get out of this. Let's pivot back and let's go, and they didn't. It eventually put them out of business. Mm. And, they were losing millions and millions and millions of dollars. We were still selling, but it wasn't at the levels we could sell to sustain the amount of employees that were at the company at the time. Mm-hmm. And when we grew over the 7 years, we actually grew 7x. So we were literally almost doubling every single year. And so they went out of business. So, they actually sold the business. They didn't tell me they were selling the business. They sold the business. So I woke up one day and they go, hey, we sold the business. The new company doesn't want what we had before. We're done. So within a year, I let go of the other clients plus this client, and it was a $2 million loss.
Wow.
Okay. So I don't tell this story to say, look how smart I am. I tell this story to let people know, this is the time when you get knocked down. So what do you do? And you've got to get back up and realize that, okay, just like when a storm cloud comes through, a tornado came through, it wreaked havoc on the town, but the tornado's gone now. So now I can just keep talking about the tornado, or I can say, okay, where do we rebuild from here? And that's what we did. And within a year, we actually pivoted back and another opportunity opened up, which actually turned out to be larger than the opportunity we lost.
Nice.
So if I lived in the past and I'm going, oh, geez, look at this happen. And that's going to be, or I lived too far out in the future and said, my gosh, we just don't have 2 million coming in. How am I going to make payroll? I asked these questions, don't get me wrong, but I didn't live there. You got to bring yourself into the present moment and say, okay, I'm here. What do I do? Whether you're on an island and you're, out in the South Pacific, like Tom Hanks, I think was in the movie Castaway, or, whether you're just like sitting at your house and you're like, okay, this, terrible thing happened. Understand I'm not a Buddhist, but there's a law in Buddhism that's like impermanence. I believe they call it. It'll happen and then it moves on.
Right.
We've all had bad breakups in our lives of some sort, right? It hurt at the moment. If we keep going back and, I think Al Bundy in the Married with Children used to keep saying, I threw 3 touchdowns at the high school game and, and then I met Peggy and she ruined my life. Right. And right. That type of thing. If we keep going back to that, that's what I think, Grant, gets people caught. They keep holding on to the memories of what if, or not looking at just what could be, but focusing on now.
That's pain. And if you keep reliving that pain over and over again, you've never really allowed yourself to heal, right? And move forward. Now what you just described there is major. You've got to put something, you've got to have major belief in yourself to get yourself moving forward. So you're not stuck in that rut. And I know a lot of sales leaders, they burn out when they're under this kind of pressure. They just can't do this, I want to know, and I'm sure that people want to know, because as you're building back, you've got to build this back up, and you've got to do this on a daily basis. What practices do you use, or did you use, or recommend for bouncing back when the numbers just aren't hitting?
Yeah. So I credit Ted Turner to this, just so everybody knows. Like Ted Turner, I remember during certain times in my life, I read Ted Turner at one point was losing $20 million a day.
Wow. At
TNT, I believe it was. And I think he was still married to
Jane Fonda.
Jane Fonda, right? So, his days couldn't be all that bad, right? Right. So I think it's I just saw Jane Fonda. She's like 86 in a movie. And she looks amazing. Like it's good for you, Jane. And the movie was wonderful. And I think it was called Move, if I remember correctly. Here's the thing. No matter how bad we have it, someone's always got it worst.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing I look at is I try not to get into that little pity party of myself, because we all can do it.
Right.
So, there are times I literally have closed the door, walked into a closet, closed the door, and just screamed and got it out, and then just opened the door and said, okay, back to work.
Okay.
And Ted Turner, like, he didn't seem rocked that he was losing $20 million a day. Where most of us, if we were losing $20 million a day, I mean, it'd be like, life is complete, like I can't go on, right?
Right.
But I've known a lot of successful people, and I didn't know Ted Turner. I would love to meet him. But I know that they went through ups and downs and ups and downs, I mean, I remember seeing Tony Robbins extremely upset one day in Las Vegas. And I went, wow, Tony Robbins actually has emotions beyond what he,
Yeah.
He's a normal, regular guy, right? And I respect him a great deal. And he's done phenomenally well, and helped millions, literally, of people.
Sure.
I've seen Chet Holmes come and say, listen, you know what? You can't, we're $20,000 over on this invoice that we were supposed to be for tech support. In a time where we had committed $100,000 a month to spend out on radio ads, which was our $20,000 more, right? So we all get ourselves in places. The one thing I can tell people that absolutely works is you focus not on the problem, but on the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the solution? The solution is removing the cause to the problem. And this, Grant, is where I think people get in trouble all the time, because they're trying to solve the symptom of the problem versus at what is the cause of the problem. And when you remove the cause of a problem, you no longer have the problem.
It's true. Yeah.
And so every day we've got to wake up and we got to say, okay, once we have identified the cause, we remove that. And from that point on, everything is what's under my control that I can do today to get to where I want to go. And we just put our nose in that direction and we take one step forward each and every day. I learned this from a man named Richard Minervino. Can I tell the story? Because it was funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm in my 30s, I believe. I'm having challenges in business with employees, with government stuff, everything going on. And I'm sitting in his office. Now, this is a man who was worth, at the time, $350 million. And for whatever reason, he just mentored me. I never asked him why, but I think I reminded him of a young him. He was like 30 something years older than I was. And we would just go down and talk. And one day I'm like, Dick, this is going on in my business and this is going on in my business. As I was telling him this was going on, he was laughing. And, and I'm like, at first it was just a chuckle. It was like, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as I'm going on there, and I'm like, no, I had employees, they have 1099 contracts, independent agreements, and they went out and they claimed unemployment benefits. And now the states are after me. And he's laughing and he's getting louder and louder. And I got a little frustrated at one point. And I said, Dick, I don't think you're hearing me. I got all these problems. I mean, you got 315 employees out on the field, out on that, right on that floor out there. And you've got all this, you got a 1,500 square foot office, or 1,800 square foot office. And I said, I have all these problems. Are you hearing me? Do you ever go through this? And he stopped laughing, Grant, like, whoop, like just quickly stopped laughing. His eyes narrowed, kind of like Clint Eastwood in the movies.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he goes, son, every effing day of my life. And it like snapped me back. So like, I was like, what? Like, you're a, $350 million guy.
Yeah.
He's like, son, this is what you signed up for. This is entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
He's like, you're going to have ups and down days. And then I asked him this question: why do people not get what they want then?
Mm-hmm.
And he said these words to me. He said, son, all you can do is know what you want and then point your nose in that direction. And you keep your nose pointed in that direction and you keep taking a step every day. And I promise you, you're still going to go through the things you're going through right now. You're going to get beat up, knocked down. People are not going to believe in you. Some people will. You just keep walking. He said, I promise you two things. And then, well, actually three things. I promise you it's going to take you 2 to 3 times longer than you figure it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It will cost you 2 to 3 times more than you thought it was going to cost you. Yeah. And if you keep walking, eventually you will get there.
Man, golden wisdom right there when it comes to resilience, but understanding what it is that you truly want. In my world, I call it the North Star. If you truly want to reach that North Star, you truly want to get there, you're going to have to go through a lot more than you probably realize that you're going to do. But is it worth the stretch, right? Is it worth all the pain and anguish you're going to go through to get there? Is the payoff going to be what you expected, to be? This is very, very important to understand this. Now, you've created and worked with a lot of important projects, important in people, and I want to talk about your vision, because right there that you got to have a very powerful vision, and you got to make that vision come to life authentically, right?
Yeah.
So what's your long-term vision for reshaping how companies like today? I think maybe we're losing some of that human to human connection because of AI. I think people don't realize how important that is. But how do you see this approach to sales in the enterprise space changing, or maybe unchanging?
Well, I always tell people, they go, what do you think of AI? And I go, AI can't produce babies, right? So, and I've had some technology people say, not yet, right? I'm like, all right, well. So, here's the thing. I'm just going to take a drink. So, yeah. Sinus infection, not fun. So here's the thing. We're still selling to human beings.
Yeah.
Not titles.
That's right.
The challenge for most people is they think they're selling to a CEO, mm-hmm. or they're selling to a chief whatever, or whatever level. And they forget that there's two things in every sale. A business return on investment and a personal return on investment. Mm-hmm. Human to human selling is about the personal return on investment. Mm-hmm. But most people forget it. So let me give you an example. We might be going in to sell a company a certain protocol that will, reduce overhead without reducing head count, and which will increase the profitability by X. There's the business return on investment.
Right.
But if that personal return on investment is they want safety and security, and we're not addressing that, we will get things like, you know what, might not be in the budget right now. You know what, we might have to look at this again next year. You know what, I need to confer with a council on this. Give me a proposal and let me see what it looks like, right? You'll hear things like that. And the personal return on investment could be whatever they deem it to be, Grant, right? So it's one of those things that it's personal to them. Maybe they want higher repute. Maybe they want to have a better standing in the community of which they serve. Mm-hmm. So how does our sale actually help that? If for example, if they wanted higher authority, higher repute, and we were like, listen, we can increase your profitability and we can take part of that profitability and we can put you on Grant's podcast and 15 other podcasts. We can get Authority Magazine to do an article on you, and we can use that, these things to do that. That might be enough for the personal ROI to actually kick it over the top. But I see, but if they're like worried about the board and losing their job, if this goes wrong, because they promised their kids they were going to send them to Harvard or Stanford and they were going to pay for all of this, or, whatever it is for them. If we don't find that out as a seller, we're missing it. And I think that's where people miss it all the time. And, that's never going to go away. So AI can replace routine, repetitive workflow tasks and do it amazingly well. I love AI. I mean, I use it all the time. It cuts down a research project that I'm doing from, hours to minutes.
Correct.
Right. AI will replace certain things that are routine in the future of, even appointment setters and things like that. Will it replace all appointment setters? I don't believe so. To be seen, but it's just the technology.
Right.
And we've had technology all the time that has been rapidly changing the landscape. Moving pictures changed vaudeville, right? The television replaced a big part of radio. Right? Now streaming is replacing what we knew as traditional television. You can just go up on an app, right? So it's not something to fear. And the vision around that is not something to fear, but the vision of communicating with human beings forever and ever and ever, it will not go away. Like, again, AI can't make babies, right? I mean, human emotion is what creates babies. And that's never, ever going to, I don't believe, ever change. I think, we're going to remove, humans from human beings. I just don't see that working out. And so when it's a complex conversation or an involved conversation, if the pandemic taught me anything,
yes,
it's people want to get back together.
True.
Right.
What you're saying is, and because I've been in technology for 25, 30 years, I understand exactly what you're saying. Technology changes certain things. It'll change the landscape, but it's changing the human story. The human story still continues. AI is very good for me. It's about amplification and refinement. It can do very, very good in those areas, but for what purpose? And that is to enhance the human-to-human interaction, to get human beings to be more critical thinkers, to dig deep into their humanity and bring things out that weren't always so obvious. I think that's so important and to understand. Now, here's my last question for you, because this is very important. And I want my audience to truly understand this. You have built over 36 companies and helped generate more than $1 billion in sales. This is the Doug Brown story, right? And for leaders listening right now who want to grow revenue in the next 90 days, what's the most actionable step that they can execute immediately without overcomplicating the process?
Okay. That's a big question. So I'm going to answer it to what I know of it in the context of what we're talking about. So the first thing is, let's get a truthful goal. What is the actual thing we want to grow by? I see so many people hyperinflate the actual truthful goal that they never get it off the ground enough to get to that particular goal, right? So we're talking 90 days. Like I had a gentleman come, he was talking to me the other day, actually 3 weeks ago now. And he's like $7 million. And I said, well, where do you want to be by the end of the year? And he goes, I want to be at 12. And I'm like, we're in August. So that's August to September, September to October, November, December to January. We're talking 4.5, 5 months. You want to go from 7 to 12 million. And he said, yes. And I said, well, what happens if you don't hit 12? What number would you be happy with?
Mhm.
He goes, 8.5.
Okay.
I'm like, hello, right? Like, it's like, and then he goes, well, I'd really like 9. And I'm like, okay, so we really don't know the number yet, right?
Yeah.
So I know this sounds like basic but it's one of those things, Grant, that just people don't do it. They're like, yo, I want to date a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. It's like, do you really? I mean, you don't know anything about the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sure they're nice ladies, So, in the reality is what they're looking for is a close connected relationship with another human being. Right. And so I think it's one of those things that if we don't define that, then how do we build a plan off of something that's fictitious? We do, like my $2 million faux pas, right? And I'm not saying this because I have made the mistake, don't make the mistake. I'm saying because I've worked with so many companies and all of our own businesses, this is the first place to start. Okay. Once you get there, it's like, okay, so how do we get there? It's easy. Math, right? We want to go from here to here. What are the KPIs or the metrics we want to hit? And then what is the math that needs to go behind that? How many, is our sales team, for example, if we had a sales team, and they're outreaching today, 20 people a day. I'm just making up the number. Is it possible to get them to reach out to 26 a day? Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Aha. All right, great. So if we can get them to go out 26 a day, how many people can they connect with? How many people can they get positive responses from? How can we increase our appointment ratio at that point? Because if we have a static close rate, let's say it's 1 in 4. We have a static close rate of 1 in 4, but I can now push volume through the front end of that. For every 4 people that we have an appointment with, we know we're going to get 1 more sale, right? So it's predictable once we start looking at the metrics. This is super critical. If somebody doesn't want to go through that portion and they're just like, hey, I just want to raise my sales in the next 90 days, look at the things that you're sitting on right now. I'll tell you one of them will probably be your dormant clients that you haven't paid attention to for a long time. Go back to every single one of those clients and just call them and say, hey, we haven't talked in a while. I'd just like to catch up.
Sure.
And you will spawn new business. Your follow-up ratios. How are you following up? If I ask the question, out of 12 months, how many times do you follow up with your current clients, your current buyers? I know the average on most people is between 1 and 4, with the average being about 2. And guess what? There's money sitting there. Yeah. So there's some simple things to do. After that kind of clears the first 90 days and we built the plan, the next step in that process is we have to really take a look at who's our ideal right fit buyer, because I can tell you most companies in part or in full don't know it. And I thought it was like a big deal. And then I did some research, Grant, and to give the audience the research data, Harvard Business School, Wharton Business School, you name the big companies, marketing companies out there or whatever, they've done these studies and they all conclude the same thing. And I was shocked by the numbers. 97% of people selling don't know in part or in full their ideal right fit buyer.
Wow. That's huge.
So if we're talking the wrong message to the wrong buyer or the wrong message to the right buyer, or we're talking to the wrong buyer with the right message, then we're going to be off. Mm-hmm. And so now we're spending a lot more money than we need to and a lot more energy and time. Once we dial that thing in, it's crazy, like crazy good. And I will tell people, I've worked with, solo entrepreneur consultants who have not had this right, and big companies like Intuit didn't have it right. into it. Please don't sue me on that. But, but when we dialed it in, it literally went from a multi-million-dollar loss to a $10 million gain.
Right.
In 1 year. So it is one of those things that, that's kind of the process in the beginning of getting it going. And then obviously you got to be able to hold accountability to making sure it goes through. That's kind of the short answer, but that was a big question.
It's a great answer to a good question that a lot of people have. The metric you just hit, 97% people don't know who they're selling to. And the misalignment of messaging, I see that a lot. I used to fight with my marketing team. In sales, you're like that. You're like, I need something to be able to put in front of a client that's willing to buy our stuff. But your messaging and what you just said right here that's not it. It's just really off. And what you even said earlier about knowing who you're selling to, especially because the C-suite has a whole different sort of circumstances than what you call your suite of SVPs or vice presidents and directors and managers. You have to know your audience in order to position what you're selling, whether it's a product or service, to the right audience. It makes such a big difference. I kind of lied and said that was going to be my last question. I have one more question. I have to ask you this because it's so important to me. You said earlier you've been on 500 different podcasts. You've given all kinds of interviews. This is your first opportunity to be on the Follow Brand podcast. What did you think of this interview?
Oh, all right. This is where you slipped me the $100. Here, go ahead. It's in the mail. I've enjoyed this, and I'm being sincere. I've enjoyed this interview immensely, and you've asked really thought-provoking questions that I haven't been asked on many other podcasts, where it's like I really had to oh wow, let me think deeply about this, because this question is going to be not only important for the people listening, that I give what I know to be accurate information, right? But it actually made me really think about, okay, is this accurate information about what I'm supposed to say, right? So I really think a great deal about what our interview has been, and I will continue to think about it after our conversation, because here's the thing: when I do these podcasts, people ask questions, and sometimes I go, where the heck did that answer come from? Like, that was brilliant. Oh, wow. Geez, I didn't know that was there, right? That type of thing. Or sometimes I listen back and I go, that was close, but it really wasn't, there. On our answers here, I keep telling myself this was, spot on, right? So I appreciate not only your style and the ability to ask questions, but just the conversation I think that we're having is so important to anybody, whether they're a salesperson selling, a solo entrepreneur, or running a large corporation. They're all important jobs, and we're all human beings, and everybody has wants, needs, desires, and fears. And, those of you who might be in a sales position and you're thinking your CEO of a company doesn't wake up and go, oh my gosh, or I've got a board meeting today, or I've got to, raise funds on this, and if you're a CEO and you don't realize that your salespeople are waking up every day thinking similar things, like, man, how am I going to hit quota? How am I going to boost past quota? How am I going to get this, this bonus structure that you put in? Kindly, thank you. So that I can, send my kid to, Europe or whatever, right? We all have these things. And, I don't want to say that, I'm a humanitarian type guy, Grant, but it's, I am in a lot of ways, but I just believe, and maybe it's, I'm getting older, but this podcast is deep in the thought of what I believe life really is about, which is, you have a limited number of days on this earth to not fear where you really want to go, take action on what you want to do, and to measure the days of ratio of happiness to BS that you live on a daily basis. and to put yourself in a place where those days of happiness are higher than the days of the BS, because to me, that's kind of the purpose of life at this point, you know? And I look back at all the businesses we built and all the stuff we went through. And, you know, I listen to a lot of, you know, people who have been successful getting there. And many of them say the same thing, you know, I'm glad I'm here, but I wish I had done this differently. You know, I wish I had taken more time to enjoy life, because it goes whoosh, by, you know? So to me, this podcast is just kind of like reinforced that whole process. So I thank you.
I want to thank you for being on the Follow Brand podcast. Now, you've got to tell the audience how to contact you, and I'm definitely let my audience know that as well. So what is the best way to get a hold of Doug Brown?
You can reach out to me directly by email at doug@CEO Sales Strategies, plural.com, you know, so salesstrategies.com. I'm Doug Brown 123 on LinkedIn. If you type in Doug C. Brown online, I'll be everywhere. You know, honestly, not braggadocious, but consciously have been putting myself there. If you type Doug Brown, you're going to come up with a professional hockey player, and I can't skate to save my soul. Doug used to play for the Red Wings. I think his son plays for the Boston Bruins, if I remember correctly. And I've got a book called Win-Win Selling, Unlocking the Power of Profitability by Resolving Objections. I wrote a whole book on philosophy and psychology of objections. That's been very well received. And if you want to join our newsletter, go to ceosalesstrategies.com/newsletter. We put out, you know, really good, thoughtful content on a weekly basis.
I love that. We're going to take you up on that. We're going to invite your entire audience to tune in to all episodes of Follow the Brand. You can do so at 5-Star BDM. That is the number 5, that's star, STR, B for brand, D for development, infomasters.com. Thank you so much, Doug, for gracing us with your particular philosophies, how you've been so successful in a very tough business. Sales is not easy. And I'm sure when you started out, you had a full head of hair just like I did.
I joke about that all the time, you know. Can I leave the audience with one other piece here?
Sure, go ahead.
So, you know, it's interesting now because in my life, I have 2 daughters who I love dearly. And they both decided they want to really learn about selling. They're in their early 20s. And I've had the pleasure now of starting to train them. You know, and okay, so they, you know, when they were little, I mean, they hung around with, you know, Tony Robbins, and they hung around with people, you know what I mean, like really successful people. So they were putting a ton of pressure on themselves. And I said to them, I said, you've got to make room for mistakes in sales. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a message I want people to understand. They said, well, what do you mean? I said, you know, I learned this from Russ Whitney, another successful man. Yeah. He said, Doug, there's always a law of averages. You know, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, you're gonna be brilliant on some, you're gonna be kind of on some. You know, you got to just make room for it, and I do that. And so I was teaching them that as we were going through some trainings together, and you know, I want to pass that message along that no matter what happens during the day, you're not going to get it 100%. So make room for it. Mm-hmm. And understand, you know, like people used to say this when I was a kid, like Babe Ruth used to strike out more than he hit a home run, right? And I'd be like, who wants to strike out? You know, but I realize what they were saying now, which is like the strikeouts are part of the actual process of being able to hit the home run. It's not like a direct comparison to strikeouts and, you know, home runs, right? Which is what I used to think. Now what it is you've got to make room for some of the strikeouts, some of the walks, some of the singles, the doubles, the triples, you know, I got hit by a pitch, you know, that type of thing, as well as a few grand slams, right? It's all in the law of the averages. And if you want to improve your law of averages, you get better at your skill, your mindset, and some of the other, you know, some of the things we were talking about today. And your law of averages will actually improve.
That's 100% correct. You got to get the at-bats, right? You got to get the at-bats no matter what happens. As long as you get the at-bat, And sometimes you do hit the ball that you didn't expect and it goes for a grand slam. Like, wow,
Yeah.
I could be that company. But if you don't get up to bat and take that swing, you'll never know. So I want to thank you again for being on the show. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you again, my friend, when I come up there to visit New Hampshire.
Oh, I'm bringing you out to lunch, brother.
Take care.
You too.
Man, who's your favorite podcaster? Man, Grant, man. I love Grant's podcast. Well, who's Grant? I'm going to send you the link. I love Grant.
I love the interview. I've done a lot of these, and this is a great one. It's always great to talk to people who know what they're doing, and it's clear you're a great host, and you've done this many times before.
I feel great that we're having this conversation here. Met a new person in business who I previously didn't know.
It was an amazing podcast. Grant is an amazing interviewer. I learned a lot.
Really enjoyed this. Great questions, great talk track. Super appreciate you having me on. It's been a very fun episode to talk about a lot of things that I don't always get to dive into. So this has been a fantastic conversation.
I wouldn't be where I am here today, of course, not on this stage. However, not in my current business projection and my current business model without working with you.
The difference between influence and legacy, it's the platform that carries your voice. You're not visible because you lack talent. You're visible because your brand doesn't speak. I've built 5-star BD&M to change that. Most leaders have the expertise, but not the presence, the vision, but not the vehicle. Across 3 cities, one brand is helping leaders rise above the noise. Here in the heart of Omaha, strategy isn't left to chance. It's engineered with precision. In Omaha, we engineered your executive brand, AI-powered, data-driven, precise. TISA went from a local nonprofit to a national speaker in 90 days. We don't guess your brand strategy, we build it. On the shores of St. Croix, your brand takes on depth and meaning, shaped through curated retreats and legacy experiences. In St. Croix, strategy becomes soul. Our retreats don't just refine your message, they rediscover your mission. One founder rewrote his entire company story here. Funding followed 30 days later. This is where leaders remember who they were meant to be. In Vibrant Miami, momentum meets amplification, transforming your voice into a movement. In Miami, your brand becomes a movement. Business development accelerators, audience building. Joy came with an old website and an outdated company name, but she left with 5,000 followers and a waiting list. This is where you scale with soul. 3 cities, 1 mission. Your legacy ignited. It started with a thread. Let's pull it together. Stop blending and start leading. 5-Star BDM, where legacy is engineered, embodied, and ignited. Visit 5starbdm.com and book your brand audit today.
Hey everyone, it's Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM and host of the award-winning Follow the Brand podcast and TV series, where I help you to build a 5-star brand that people will follow. My genius is personal brand development through intelligent communication and helping you achieve your business and career goals. I am a requested speaker on digital technology and brand development issues. I want to work with you to increase the value of your current opportunities while attracting new ones. Every one of you is unique, and we all share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. As a super connector, I work with you as an executive coach to guide you along the complicated business and career development road, providing the enhancement tools and information you need to succeed. Together, I will help you succeed in today's challenging business climate. I will evaluate and measure your progress. Best of all, I am right alongside you every step of the way. Build the brand called you. Genius is coming. Tune in for our next show or click on our website at www.5starbdm/5 follow The Brand TV. Thank you.